field.
Whizzer White, of course, was the best player in the country.
He led the NFL in rushing the same year he finished #1 at Yale Law School.
If he said something and you didn't do it, he'd march you right out and put you on the sideline.
To the nation's highest court.
I had no thought to be a judge.
It shows how people can leave the state, but the state never leaves the people.
He was a team player on the court.
Take a journey to the apex of personal ambition through the eyes and ears of those who loved him.
I think my dad was just like any other dad.
This is the best things ever come out of this state.
He was a leader in everything that he ever did. Well, he was just a star, that's all.
Byron Whizzer White, a Colorado hero, narrated by Bill McCarthy.
The year was 1937. The country was in the throes of the worst depression of all time. Eastern Colorado was buried under a cloud of dirt so immense it blocked out the sun, not to mention the Rocky Mountains. But to the west, in the tiny town of Boulder, the University of Colorado, never before known for its athletic successes, was headed to a nationally recognized bowl game for the first time. The reason? A 6'1", 175-pound halfback by the name of Byron Whizzer White.
The Cotton Bowl had been created to showcase Sammy Baugh. It was thought to be an audacious move, since the Rose Bowl, Sugar Bowl, and Orange Bowl were already very well established. And so the question is, would this regional team from the Rocky Mountains, this one-player team, the Utah newspapers once printed what they called a team photo, and it was a mugshot of Byron White. Could a team like that draw enough to make a financially fragile enterprise work?
At this particular time, it meant keeping people out of class or missing, in this particular time, Christmas.
Well, this is me here.
Lou Lively was a teammate of Byron's and one of Colorado's oldest living football players until his passing in the spring of 2007.
So what we thought we would do is take a vote, and if the majority wanted to go to the Cotton Bowl, why, we would go.
And White actually argued to his teammates that, look, we've won the Rocky Mountain Conference, we've had a great season, we don't need to go further. But the team still nonetheless voted to go, notwithstanding the fact that it would be a real financial hardship on a number of families of the players. But the real reason that the players were hesitant, I think, is they really didn't like the coach very much. Bunny Oaks was a driven man, a fussy man, a paranoid man.
Oaks was pretty tough. When we got down there, why, we practiced at TCU Stadium, which is in Fort Worth, and we ran into quite a bit of rain. So at that time, why, it wasn't like it is now, to where you got a lot of uniforms, a lot of shoes, and all this and that. We'd practice in the on the field in the mud, actually, and then we'd come back and get in the shower with our uniforms on and we'd wash off the mud.
One of the problems for the players was that White wasn't around for the first few practices because he was off in San Francisco going through his final interviews for the Rhodes Scholarship. And when he arrived in Dallas, he quietly convinced Oaks to stop the full contact scrimmages. 3 players were already injured.
Despite missing nearly half of the practices, Byron White was still outstanding come game day. He intercepted a pass in the first quarter and returned it for a touchdown, then added a second touchdown. At halftime, the Buffaloes led a powerful Rice squad 14-0. But because of the difficult week leading up to the game, the Buffs ran out of gas in the second half, and the Owls, led by star quarterback Ernie Lane, marched to a resounding 28-14 victory.
The Cotton Bowl was, by all accounts, a miserable experience for the players. And 3 of them ended up quitting football and not playing their senior year as a result of it.
Regardless of the outcome, The trip to the Cotton Bowl was a turning point in the evolution of CU athletics. For the first time, they were becoming nationally recognized.
And this, I think, is really a kind of a watershed in CU's history, that they made the decision in 1938 to go to the Cotton Bowl. I mean, they went to the Cotton Bowl because of Byron White.
What you see of Wellington, Colorado from Interstate 25 isn't much. A gas station, a Subway sandwich shop, but looking beyond that, down Main Street past the factories to the west, gazing for a moment on the majestic Rockies that serve as an anchor to this tiny farm town, you gain a realization of the back-breaking work that every man, woman, and child put into developing this village and others like it, all across the Great Plains. Byron Raymond White and his family were at the forefront of that development, and carved from that came a work ethic unparalleled to anyone who had ever laid eyes on him.
White himself later said, everybody worked. Everybody. Everybody. And his first job was, at 6 years old, hoeing sugar beets for $1.50 a day.
This is a beet knife that's used to top beets.
Andy Mayer graduated from Wellington High School 3 years before Byron did. The two men were friends for 3/4 of a century.
He was the best, the highest grade of anyone that ever graduated from Wellington High School. He was first in his class. He was valedictorian of the class of Wellington. But he set a standard that was hard to beat. And if you got a teacher grading on the curve, don't be in class with a White, because you're in trouble.
White's study habits earned him a full academic scholarship to the University of Colorado. It was never in doubt that he would try out for the football team, given the fact that his older brother Sam, also a fine scholar athlete, was an assistant coach. White came in with little fanfare, the attention showered on scatback K.O. Lamb at that time. But Byron raised some eyebrows, leading the freshman team to a 7-0 win over Denver University, scoring the only touchdown on a 32-yard scamper. That's when those around Boulder began to take notice of this physically imposing triple threat tailback.
He was extremely strong to begin with. He was not particularly fast. He was hard muscled. I mean, this is somebody who threw a sledgehammer during the summers, working on the CNS rail lines, who hauled sugar beets to the beet dump. He looked like he'd been sculpted out of white oak.
That spring, more attention than ever was given to the 2 annual inter-squad scrimmages played in April and May. Once again, the freshman was impressive, scoring 2 touchdowns in the first game and intercepting a pass and returning it 85 yards in the second game. A star had been born, and White was still a month shy of his 18th birthday.
Coming up on Spotlight, we examine Byron White's career as a basketball player. His fame gave birth to an event that's still an annual tradition, nearly 60 years later.
But they wanted Whizzer White.
That's next on Spotlight.
Your truck, huh?
Yeah, it's a Toyota Tacoma. And guess what? I got 3.9% financing.
Nice.
Of course, I'm also saving money on gas. Between that and the deal, I'm spending a lot less than I thought. In fact, I finally have enough extra money to get the dog fixed. Because that's just freaking the other dogs out.
Toyota, a smart way to keep moving forward.
Cookie Dough Blast, now at Sonic. This summer, give in to your cravings with the Sonic Cookie Dough Blast, the indulgent taste of chocolate chip cookie dough blended into a creamy frozen treat. And now Sonic is open till midnight or later, and it's even sweeter after dark.
Quality Tough Shed Sundance Series buildings are now available at the Home Depot. Tough Shed does it all, from helping you design your storage building to installing it where you want. Just call, click, or visit to order your Sundance Series building today. Right now, free paint with any Sundance Series building. Plus, get 12 months same as cash financing through July 8th with your Home Depot consumer credit card. Legendary Tough Shed buildings, plus the convenience of the Home Depot.
The Tough Shed Sundance Series, available exclusively at the Home Depot.
Tonight on the best damn sports show, period.
Philly slugger Ryan Howard. What does he think about going from MVP to All-Star snub? Plus NASCAR's Kevin Harvick and baseball writer Ken Rosenthal. Tonight at 11.
We're here at Bruce Rossmeyer's Destination Daytona, home to one of the largest motorcycle dealerships in the world. Let's go talk to Bruce. So Bruce, this place you built, it's like a theme park for bikers.
Yep.
And because of this place, you sell a lot of motorcycles.
Yeah.
And the bikes, they need to be insured?
Of course.
So why do your customers like Geico Motorcycle Insurance?
Because this guy saves people money, and he's always around to help.
Mr. Rossmeyer, call line 5. Mr. Rossmeyer.
Geico Motorcycle. Let's ride.
Coming off an outstanding freshman season, Byron White was shifted to fullback in order for him to play alongside K.O. Lamb. Unfortunately, his sophomore year was cut short due to a knee injury. But by his junior year, he was already being touted as one of the best in the Rocky Mountain region. And by the time Byron White reached his senior year at Colorado, he had made a name for himself both on and off the gridiron. He was in the top 1% of his class and the student body president. But his alter ego, the granite statue of a man becoming known as Whizzer, was listed in national papers and on national radio broadcast as a potential All-American, an honor that had been bestowed just once on a player from this region, Dutch Clark, 9 years earlier.
Basically, you put them on the national map for the first time. During the 1930s, when both Whites were playing at the University of Colorado, if you weren't on a coast, you weren't real, and basically if you weren't on the East Coast, you were invisible.
Byron White's senior campaign was statistically one of the greatest single-season achievements of all time. Through 5 games, all victories, he had scored 62 points. This in an age when 7-0 finals were the norm. By mid-October, White had garnered more national attention, and one writer, Henry McLemore, came west to see Whizzer play against a powerful Utah team.
He had the good fortune, or I should say Byron White had the good fortune, of seeing the famous Utah game in 1937, when a good Colorado team beat a very good Utah team, underscored by a brilliant, unforgettable run that White made returning a kickoff in the second half.
He took a kickoff and ran through the entire team. I mean, really probably made 7 to 10 people miss, which is pretty phenomenal, and just made it look easy. Sort of like a matador making the Bulls miss.
White took the kickoff at his own 14, retreated to the 5, and McLemore waxed lyrical about it in his column. Surrounded by 25 or 30 Utah players, changed course, ran cross field down the sidelines for a touchdown, and it turned the game around. The only question that was left was how many yards did he actually run? And the best guess was 140 yards.
McLemore's column showed up in over 400 newspapers nationwide, and Whizzer Mania was officially born outside of the Rocky Mountain region.
He was very well built, and he maneuvered very well, and he did everything. He was very, very well liked. Community, well, he was just a star, that's all.
White didn't lose a step in his final games, scoring 3 touchdowns against Colorado College in a 35-6 romp. 1 game remained, and with it a chance to become the NCAA's leading scorer.
He worked hard. He played defense, by the way, in football very well.
Nearly 30,000 showed up for Colorado's annual clash with Denver University, and they didn't leave disappointed. White scored 5 touchdowns, kicked 4 PATs. He scored all 34 points for the Buffaloes in an easy win and became the nation's leading scorer.
He used a stiff arm in a way that hadn't been used before. Using the stiff arm at the time and even today is used to hold someone, a tackler, at arm's length. White used the stiff arm a little bit differently. He let the tackler get 6 inches closer and then pushed the palm of his hand into the forehead of the tackler. and it was said to have the power of a billy club.
He rarely talked about football, or he never talked much about himself, actually. What he talked about, and what I remember, are the people that he met playing football and the friends that he had.
He was sometimes a little embarrassed to talk about his football days. I tried to get it out of him, and he did. I mean, he talked about the days back at CU, but he seemed to be a little reluctant to do that for whatever reason.
After CU's defeat in the Cotton Bowl, White's football season was finished, but his amateur athletic career was not. A 4-year starter at guard for the CU basketball team, White didn't waste any time heading indoors, trading shoulder pads for gym shorts.
He could defend well. His game was passing. Again, he wasn't somebody who was going to be singled out as a scorer.
He played hard. Many people thought he played dirty and that the fouls were unnecessarily vicious.
The same year White was finishing his collegiate career on the hardwood, basketball's nationwide popularity gave rise to a new postseason tournament. It was called the NIT.
It was the only postseason basketball tournament at the time.
That first tournament, NIT tournament, was held in 1938, and then, because it was successful, the NCAA then had its tournament the following year.
And the idea that the sports writers had was to capitalize on what was a growing penchant for doubleheader collegiate basketball games at Madison Square Garden.
And I just thought it was fascinating that this tournament said we want the University of Colorado, because the University of Colorado at that particular time really didn't have a reputation of having a great basketball program, but they wanted Whizzer White.
So, just 2.5 months after traveling to Dallas, Texas, the Colorado Buffaloes basketball team, led by Whizzer White, boarded a train heading for New York City.
The idea was the NIT would be a showcase for, the dazzling but mysterious man from the Rockies. And that's why the NIT started.
The Buffaloes won one and lost one in that 1938 tournament, officially ending White's collegiate sports career. He would normally have played baseball in the spring, admittedly his favorite sport, but he chose not to. He had a decision to make. After the football season, Art Rooney of the Pittsburgh Pirates, as they were known back then, made him their #1 draft choice. It offered him $15,800 for 1 year to play professional football.
That was a lot of money in '38, and that old saying of saying that a loaf of bread was only 5 cents, that's true.
When the team returned home from the NIT, the speculation began. Would Whizzer take the enormous NFL contract offered to him, or would the Rhodes Scholar accept his invitation to study at Oxford University in the fall? For a man who would end up making 1,000 tough decisions, he was facing the most difficult one in his young life.
Up next on Spotlight, how a young owner named Art Rooney gave Byron some of the best advice he ever received.
That's the way my father treated the players.
That's next on Spotlight.
New truck, huh? Yeah, it's a Toyota Tacoma. And guess what? I got 3.9% financing.
Nice.
Of course, I'm also saving money on gas. Between that and the deal, I'm spending a lot less than I thought. In fact, I finally have enough extra money to get the dog fixed. Because that's just freaking the other dogs out.
Toyota, a smart way to keep moving forward.
Sound the alert, better by Bert.
Toyota means quality. Toyota means value. And Bert Toyota on Broadway has the car, truck, van, or hybrid you want at a price you can afford. Spend less at the gas pump with the 2007 Prius. Now an even better value with savings up to $2,000. Get the Toyota you want today at Bert Toyota on Broadway.
Sound the alert, better by Bert.
Which Rockies player would you like to know more about? Log on to ColoradoRockies.com and vote in the Player of the Homestand poll. Every homestand will spotlight a Rockies player of your choice. That player will be featured in various promotions on FSN Rocky Mountain, the Rocky Mountain News, and in the stadium during that homestand. Qualified voters become eligible to win awesome prizes throughout the season. Log on today and vote for the player you'd like to see featured in the next homestand.
If ever you're not satisfied with one of our tires, please feel free to bring it back. Thank you. Discount Tire Company.
I love when customers leave my store safe and happy, ready to enjoy vacation with their family.
They're going to come back and see me because we took care of them the right way the first time. I get satisfaction knowing that I gave the customer the best prices and the best choices on the safest tires.
Come see me for a tire rotation. You'll get a smoother ride, better handling, and longer wear on your tires.
I waited for my best friend to end up on the street.
I waited for my brother to get arrested. I waited for my wife.
I waited for my friend to total his car.
I waited for my sister to come. I waited for my wife to lose her job. I waited until my brother went to prison. I waited for my sister to say something.
I waited until my friend stole from me.
I waited until my best friend lost every friend she had.
I waited for my daughter to die.
What are you waiting for? Don't wait for someone with a drug or alcohol problem to hit bottom.
Baseball Report, Friday at 5:30.
In the late 30s, the sports landscape belonged to baseball. A nation of fans marveled at Lou Gehrig's consistency and Carl Hubbell's screwball. Joe Louis had lifted boxing to a close second, giving working-class citizens affected by the Depression an escape from their everyday lives. Football had yet to appear on the national scene as a serious sport, but innovative owner Art Rooney of the Pittsburgh Pirates had other plans.
Well, it was still barnstorming, so to speak. Art Rooney was a wonderful character, someone Byron White absolutely loved. And Rooney had the idea that if he could get a marquee player who had some class, and a junior Phi Beta Kappa All-American fit that bill, that would be a wonderful selling point. White was the 8th first-round choice, went to the Pirates, and Art Rooney offered Byron White $15,000 to play one season on a one-year contract with the Pirates, plus $800 if he played in exhibition games. More than twice as much as Sammy Ball was making. I mean, this was absolutely unheard of.
It really was to try to build up football in Pittsburgh, to try to generate enthusiasm. And I know that George Marshall, who was, the owner of the Redskins, really gave it to my father and said, "What are you trying to do, ruin this business paying that kind of money?"
Everybody got mad at him for doing that, an upstart, trying to... My father thought it would really change things, show that we weren't cheapskates.
The problem for White is it put him in the dilemma of choosing between a big money contract and going to Oxford. And so for months, Byron White dithered. What do I do? What do I do? He dithered so much, he decided not to play baseball his senior year, basically so he could sort out this decision. And of course, the Denver newspapers were all over him. And they put it almost in terms of a morality play. The virtue of scholarship versus the meretriciousness of money to be an athlete. The problem gets resolved eventually when Sam White asked the authorities in Oxford if his brother can have a 1/4 leave of absence. In other words, start 1/4 late at Oxford. And very reluctantly, the Rhodes authorities agreed to that.
Justice White recalled his season with the Pirates in this interview 7 years ago.
It was good fun.
Was it good fun?
Yes. Art Rooney was a good guy, and his sons helped him. And John Blood, he coached.
Even though it was his rookie season, White once again excelled, leading the league in rushing. But his talents notwithstanding, the woeful Pirates continued to lose.
He came to my father, in the late middle part of the season and says, "Art, you're paying me all this money." He says, "I know you can't afford it. He says, I can count the house as well as you can. I'll tell you how, just cut my pay." And my father never said if he cut his pay or not, but he told me he says such a wonderful, wonderful man, to say that. He said I could see where he was just so special.
I think he showed that classy players of a marquee level had a place in a seriously competitive game, and that it wasn't just a bunch of motor mechanics on their day off. And what Rooney was trying to establish, and I think he helped to with White, is that the professional game could be a family enterprise.
White played terrific. He came in and he led the league in ground game as a rookie, and he was really good. And if they had been able to keep that going, it would have been all right. But, Whizzer, I should say Justice White, came to my father at the end of the season and said, I really would like to, do this Rhodes Scholar situation. And my father said, you're not going to have that opportunity ever again. He said, so go ahead. That's the way my father treated the players.
After one season of professional football, White went to Oxford. But the impending war brought him back home sooner than expected.
He comes back since the war has begun, September 3rd, famously, and announces that he's not going to play any more professional football.
I got in the train, and I was headed for Harvard. I got to New Haven, and I was sick. I got out of the train and went to Yale, and I just thought that, well, I might as well see what this is like.
Goes straight to New Haven, where he pays in cash his tuition for the first semester at Yale Law School.
He had a room in the quadrangle, as I did.
Bob Harry was a law school classmate and former law partner of White's.
And at lunchtime, after lunch, we would go out and throw a football around or get a little exercise before studying in the afternoon. And I came out of the library entrance with a load of books in my like that to take up to my room to study, and he was throwing a football around with a few people in the class. And he looked across the quadrangle at the bottom of about 30 feet and said, "Hey, Harry, drop those books." And I did, actually. And that football hit me in the chest harder than anything I've ever felt in my life. I think the imprint of it is still on there.
While at Yale, White struck up a friendship with fellow law student Clint Frank, who had beaten out White for the Heisman Trophy 2 years earlier.
I will always remember in the gymnasium, we would have pickup basketball games, usually in the afternoons in the winter, and White would pick one team and Clint Frank would pick the other. And the combat between the two of them was absolutely brutal. They were the two toughest men I've ever seen, and they played basketball like it was a prize boxing match.
During that winter, Art Rooney, having lost his prized investment, traded White to the Detroit Lions. In 1940, White returned to the game he loved after a one-year hiatus.
As a person, he was a loner, I would say. He never went out amongst everybody. The minute practice was over, after his meal, why, he'd go up to his room and put on a bunch of old clothes and sit there and read. He was always reading out of books.
He would play 2 years for Detroit, leading the NFL in rushing both seasons.
He was a type of back that should wiggle his way through a hole and make yardage all the time. The type of fellow that when he said something in the huddle, where a quarterback has got to be the king, if he said something and you didn't do it, he'd march you right out and put you on the sidelines.
But by the fall of 1941, the war was imminent, and White, like thousands of other young men of his generation, enlisted to join the fight for freedom.
It was great knowing the fellow, the individual, because he has a terrific mind.
White retired from professional football, having led the league in rushing in every season he played.
And so I think he helped to, if not establish the National Football League, keep it from falling apart.
That same dogged determination followed him through World War II, where he was decorated with 2 Bronze Stars, and where it fell under his duty to write the official report of the sinking of John Kennedy's ill-fated torpedo boat, the PT-109.
It's not harsh at all. It's very sympathetic. And some critics have said that anybody who lost his boat under those circumstances would have faced a court-martial.
I know bloody well right that he was very, very courageous.
In 1959, he was reunited with JFK. The war hero turned presidential candidate had asked White to help him on his campaign. And after Kennedy was elected, he appointed White to our nation's highest court, where he served for 31 years, 4th longest of any justice in the 20th century.
I had no thought to be a judge, not for a second. But I said that I will give it a try, Mr. President. I found out that it was not too bad.
Your truck, huh? Yeah, it's a Toyota Tacoma. And guess what? I got 3.9% financing. Nice. Of course, I'm also saving money on gas. Between that and the deal, I'm spending a lot less than I thought. In fact, I finally have enough extra money to get the dog fixed. Because that's just freaking the other dogs out.
Toyota, a smart way to keep moving forward.
My boy loves motorcycles, just like his dad. First things first, motorcycle safety. When I got hit, at least I knew who to call. The Law Tigers. Here it is. This card is as important as his safety gear. I've been carrying a Law Tigers card for years, and I want him to have one too. With the Law Tigers, you never ride alone. Get your free biker benefit card at your favorite motorcycle shop or online at lawtigers.com. America's injury lawyers who ride.
Every day in the United States, millions go hungry. Thousands live right here in Colorado. That's why Cardell Homes and the Food Bank of the Rockies have teamed up to create home runs for hunger. When one of our players hits a home run, Cardell Homes will donate $100 to the food bank. Together with your contributions, we can help bring food to those in need. Visit CardellHomes.com to learn more about the Home Runs for Hunger campaign.
You could save with Geico Motorcycle Insurance. Enough for a day off with your special someone. Geico Motorcycle. Let's ride. Whether you ride it, drive it, or tow it, Geico can help you insure it. Geico Power Sports. Let's ride.
Byron White's 3 decades on the court were not without its share of controversy. White wrote a blistering dissent in the landmark case Miranda versus Arizona in 1966, forcing the police to advise criminals of their rights upon arrest.
The issue in Miranda versus Arizona, what are the circumstances in which the police must advise, and at what point must they advise someone they have in custody that they don't have to say anything, that they have a Fifth Amendment right to remain silent? Justice White said in dissent that all this is going to do is put some murderer or rapist back on the street when the police have acted in good faith.
There were cases, and this is one thing I admired about him, in which he had written an opinion taking one position, and later on he changed his mind, and or at least was willing to accept the precedent that went the other way. And he was very, very conscious of the importance of the court as an institution, and not just trying to stick to his own views when the court had taken a different task.
White also dissented in the polarizing case of Roe versus Wade in 1973.
Now, I argue in the book that I wrote about Justice White that as a personal matter, I think he was pro-choice. He never talked very much about it, but I think from a personal standpoint, he was pro-choice. He was capable of divorcing his personal views from what he thought his judicial role was. And that's very hard for a judge to do.
And that's why he was always a swing vote. He was liberal in certain ways, he was conservative in others, and he was somewhat unpredictable, except that he thought practicality had to be a very important part of it. So I wish we had more politicians like that, and certainly more judges that think through not only the opinion, but how does it play out with real people in real time.
White was famous for putting in long hours, and he expected the same work ethic of his clerks.
He didn't worry about the nuances and niceties of kind of smoothing things over. He basically called things the way they were. If your work was deficient, he would say this isn't acceptable. And if he found something that he thought was wrong, he would just say it's wrong, and here's the right way to do it.
Sometimes he'd assign an opinion to a law clerk. If the law clerk didn't get it done in time, he'd circulate a draft that he typed at home on his own.
On more than one occasion, he challenged me to a race. Who could get the opinion done first? And he'd work on his own draft, and I'd work on mine. And whoever got the opinion done first, well, that was the one that would be used for the basis of further work and refinement, and the other one went in the trash can.
White stayed active throughout his service on the court, often challenging his clerks, some half his age or younger, to basketball games.
I recall one story a clerk told about how he was playing a game of basketball with the justice, and the justice's hand had, quote, inadvertently smashed into the face of the clerk and had broken the glasses. At which point the justice told the clerk, well, come on down to my office, and they went down to the office, and the justice, with not another word of explanation and never a word of apology, he got on the phone, and he was calling one of his former law clerks. And the conversation went like this: hey, I got a clerk here who has the same problem with his glasses that you used to have.
Through it all, White remained a thoughtful husband to his wife, Marion, and a loyal father to his son, Barney, and his daughter, Nancy.
I think my dad was just like any other dad. I never saw him as special or different or anything. Except that, he worked a lot.
I don't think it was really different than growing up as anyone else's son. He was a great dad. He spent a lot of time with us outdoors on fishing trips, skiing trips, hiking in the woods.
The average ski trip would be, a week long, and he would ski every day, 7 days. There were no days off.
Well, I remember a lot about the fishing trips. He liked to cover a lot of ground, so by the end of the day we might have hiked 5 or 6 miles and fished an enormous amount of river.
He was just interested in life. He was very curious. He liked to learn, so he was always asking questions, and of course that was his job, right, to be a professional question asker. So he was very good at asking questions.
Nancy White was an accomplished field hockey player herself. A former co-athlete of the year at Stanford, she tried out for the Olympic team after her second year of school. The year was 1980.
We went to Europe and trained in Amsterdam and Rotterdam for about a month.
I had seen him shortly after he'd arranged for all of his tickets to go to Moscow to see Nancy play in the Olympics for the United States.
And it was right during that time when we heard that we might not be able to go.
I think he was bitterly disappointed at the United States withdrawal.
So I feel like that was a lost opportunity. Maybe we could have made more of an impact by being there. But again, I'm speaking from the athlete's perspective, not the president's perspective, who has many more difficult decisions to make.
But in order to have a rift, you have to have a relationship, and I don't think there's any relationship between Byron White and Jimmy Carter. Certainly none that I was ever aware of.
Up next on Spotlight, a Hall of Fame nominee who owes his great NFL career to his former next-door neighbor.
How many people can say that they were that spoiled to have that mountain of a human being live next door to them?
That's next on Spotlight.
Tired
of all the rubbing and scrubbing, cleaning the hard way?
Anthony Sullivan here for the new Sonic Scrubber, the powerful, portable sonic cleaner that fits in the palm of your hand. It blasts away dirt and grime in seconds without any scrubbing. The Sonic Scrubber's strong bristle brush uses sonic oscillation technology to scrub away buildup in the bathroom, making cleaning easier, faster, and better. It's specially designed for the tough cleaning jobs in your bathroom and powers through the stuff you just go crazy trying to clean. You can't scrub a corner with a toothbrush, but Sonic Scrubber can. Just snap on the comb brush. Its pointed end and angled design gets into corners and makes old grout look like new. The Sonic cleaning action even removes calcium and hard water stains. Then just snap on the softer bristle brush and let the Sonic Scrubber go to work on fixtures. It contours to the curves, bringing back the shine. The secret's the Sonic technology. You get an amazing 3,600 scrubs per minute that destroy dirt and grime on contact. Use the large bristle brush for bigger jobs. It's great for removing the ring of soap scum in the tub. Call now and you'll get the Sonic Scrubber plus 5 scrub brushes for just $19.99. But that's not all. Call right now and we'll include a Sonic Scrubber for the kitchen and around the house free. Just pay separate shipping and handling. Use it for everyday household cleanups. It makes quick work of burnt or messes on cookware, easily cleans up a dirty stovetop, and nothing's better for spills and splatters in a microwave. The Sonic Scrubber is even powerful enough to loosen stains on carpet, clothing, and furniture without damaging the fabric. You get it all. A Sonic Scrubber for the bathroom, a free Sonic Scrubber for the kitchen and household, plus 6 scrub brushes, a huge value, all for just $19.99. Here's how to order.
Call now to get your Sonic Scrubber for only $19.99. You'll get the amazing bathroom scrubber and a set of 4 brush heads for one low price. But call now and we will throw in a kitchen and household scrubber for free. Call 1-800-944-0709 now.
For an example of Byron White's influence on another generation of athletes, look no further than Nick Lowry, field goal kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs and New York Jets, and a Hall of Fame nominee in 2007. Lowry grew up next door to the White family in McLean, Virginia.
How many people can say that they were that spoiled to have that mountain of a human being live next door to them? Byron White was a unique human being. If he'd played just in football, which I don't think would have been possible because of his other interests, probably would have led the NFL in rushing 3, 4, 5 times, and probably would have redefined the position itself. He led the NFL in rushing the same year he finished #1 at Yale Law School. I mean, is that ever going to be done again?
Nick was a first-hand witness to the determination that defined his life when a 60-year-old White happened upon a front yard basketball game.
So Nancy and I one day played, the two of us, our 2 driveways faced each other. So Byron came over and he played with my 2 brothers, who were 6'2" and 6'5", against Nancy and I. We found a way to win, but it was really fun. It was really fun. He rolled up his sleeves and played in his street shoes, and you would never have heard a complaint from him except the next day he was on crutches.
Lowry maintained a relationship with his neighbor and wasn't afraid to ask him for advice when he himself became a professional athlete.
Well, I was in the middle of being cut by 8 teams 11 times, and I thought I should go to him and ask him, what should I do? Because I'm being cut by all these teams, I may never make it. And, you know, he just encouraged me to continue to push myself, and also, unlike at that point Bill Bradley, but not for long, to realize that your career and your ability, the gifts that you've been given, you have an obligation to do something with them.
Well, I met him first in his chambers in the Supreme Court in 1967, and I was trying to decide whether to play professional basketball. He was extremely helpful to me at that point of my life. I said, well, I didn't know whether I should play professional basketball, go to law school. He said, well, it all depends on what you do when you're not playing. If you spend your time right, if you either go to school or you spend your time learning other things, then it'll be a good combination. That recommendation or that advice was really one of the reasons I went ahead and played professional basketball.
One thing he said to me as the kicker, which is different from the running back, is as long as you do your job as the kicker, That's what you'll be measured by. Don't worry about being accepted by your teammates and having to, play up to them to get acceptance. You'll be accepted as long as you do your job. It's interesting how a lot of leaders really do have outstanding athletic careers that help them apply lessons about character and endurance, and certainly Byron White was somebody like that. When you heard him have an opinion, because it was so rare, you listened.
Lowry not only found a place in the NFL, he thrived, becoming Kansas City's all-time leading scorer. But White's influence extended beyond the football field, driving Lowry's interest in bettering the community around him. That hard work off the gridiron earned Nick, coincidentally, the Byron White Humanitarian Award in 1993.
There is no way that I would have won that award without having him as the sort of personal neighborhood Mount Rushmore living next door, thinking, what is my life going to be like? What can I do? And I think that if there's something that sums up the work I do with youth today, it's that every young person, besides great parents, needs to have somebody in a mentoring relationship that they can look up to, that will inspire them and challenge them to be something more than just good on the resume, that they actually make a contribution to making the world a better place. And Byron White, how many people can say that? So absolutely, without him next door, there's no way I would ever have won that award.
Coming up on Spotlight, his dreaded nickname haunted him his entire life. Byron White struggled to divorce himself from Whizzer.
He hated it.
That's next on Spotlight.
I'm thinking of a number. Do you know what it is? It's 20 million. That's how many people have already checked their free Experian credit report at freecreditreport.com for some very good reasons.
Now we can monitor all 3 of our national credit reports every day.
It helps us save money and check for potential identity theft.
I got my credit report and credit score online in seconds.
Isn't it time to get your free credit report and score? Well, log on now to freecreditreport.com.
Offer applies with the Rolling Triple Advantage.
I am so hungover.
And you've got to be at work in an hour.
How come you feel so good? You drank more than I did.
I took Chaser, remember?
Chaser?
Chaser Caplets.
Take 2 Chaser Caplets with your first drink and 2 more later. Chaser is made of specially processed calcium carbonate and charcoal. These ingredients absorb toxins and acids, then pass them out of your system, kind of like a filter. The next morning, you'll wake up feeling great.
Looks like you should have taken Chaser, too.
Chaser products are available at these fine stores.
Sound the alert! Better by Bert.
Toyota means quality. Toyota means value. And Bert Toyota on Broadway has the car, truck, van, or hybrid you want at a price you can afford. The versatile 2007 Matrix, fun to drive with loads of cargo space. Finally, a car that can keep up with everything. Get the Toyota you want today at Bert Toyota on Broadway.
Sound the alert! Better by Bert.
Save with Geico Motorcycle Insurance. Enough for a day off with your special someone. Geico Motorcycle. Let's ride.
White's impressive freshman year at the University of Colorado in 1934 led to a campaign for All-American honors his sophomore year. That campaign spawned an identity that would stick with Byron the rest of his life.
Produced a nickname, and it actually produced a number of nicknames. The editors of the Colorado Daily were imaginative. They thought that in order to have an All-American, you had to have a memorable moniker. One was Straight A White. One was the Duke of Wellington.
You had the Galloping Ghost, the Bambino, the Iron Horse, and everybody, this was just a part of the sports culture.
It was in September of that year, just prior to the first game of the season, that the first printed mention of the nickname that would be forever linked to him was made. Not by the Colorado Daily, but by the Rocky Mountain News in a photograph of the backfield. The caption reads, Byron Whizzer White.
Well, I think it started with a nickname. It started with Whizzer, which he always associated, I'm afraid, with slang terms for urination. But worse and deeper, it trivialized someone. It made him a cartoon. When he played in the first National Invitational Basketball Tournament in New York, cartoons of the whizzing man, the whiz on the court, were all over the New York newspapers. He had a nickname that he didn't like, that he didn't want, that he couldn't shake. It stuck with him so long that after he joined the Kennedy administration in the Department of Justice, he and a colleague had slipped out for a quick sandwich. And as they were having coffee, the waitress said, "Aren't you Whizzer White?" And White looked at her a bit coldly and said in a very soft voice, "I was."
Sound the alert! Better by Bert.
Toyota means quality. Toyota means value. And Bert Toyota on Broadway has the car, truck, van, or hybrid you want at a price you can afford. Quality, dependability, and value. That's the 2007 Corolla. Thrilling and fun to drive, your Corolla will take you wherever you want to go. Get the Toyota you want today at Bert Toyota on Broadway.
Sound the alert! Better by Bert.
Thank you. You could save with Geico Motorcycle Insurance. Enough for a night out with your special someone. Geico Motorcycle. Let's ride.
The IFL brings you mixed martial arts, only team fighting competition. The International Fight League on FSN. This week, Jay Huron and the undefeated Los Angeles Anacondas clash with the always dangerous Seattle Tiger Sharks. Friday on FSN.
If ever you're not satisfied with one of our tires, please feel free to bring it back. Thank you. Discount Tire Company.
What it means to work at Discount Tire is taking care of people the right way and giving them great service. Makes me feel great. Makes me feel that we did our job and we've got a friend for life.
Best part about my job is helping customers out and making sure they're safe on the road.
Discount Tire offers the best prices and the best choices out there.
Thanks, Colorado, for making Discount Tire your #1 choice for tires.
So, yeah, my Corolla gets 41 miles per gallon. Plus, I got $750 cash back. You know, for a Toyota. Honestly, I expected to pay a lot more. So I donated the extra money to Saving the Whales. And pandas. Wow.
Hey.
Hey.
Scott, right?
Yeah.
Hi. Hi. Well, see you at the fundraiser.
Yes, you will.
Toyota. A smart way to keep moving forward.
The bases on FSN Baseball Report. Friday at 5:30.
From his birth, June 8, 1917, to his death, April 15, 2002, Byron Raymond White lived a life as dynamic and successful as anyone in this nation's history.
After he retired from the Supreme Court, he moved back to Denver a couple years later, and he had all of his memorabilia from a lifetime of public service and sports and government and military all shipped back to Denver, to our courthouse. And so one day, we were opening up a box, and I started to unwrap one of the items in the box, and I unwrapped just a plain old spiral notebook, the kind you would buy at a grocery store for your high school classes. And as soon as I had unwrapped the notebook, before I read it, before I opened it, just as it was unwrapped, the justice looked over to me, and he said, if, and he pointed this massive finger to the notebook, if. And I looked at him and I said, I don't understand, Justice. If what? What do you want? And he kept saying that one word over and over again. And I said, do you want me to look in the notebook? Shall I see what's there? And I opened it up. And as soon as I opened it up, I understood. Very first entry in this high school notebook in the Justice's own hand was the poem If by Rudyard Kipling.
If you can walk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch.
He made the most of his talents, but he never forgot that he was just a man, along with everybody else.
If neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much.
He is an inspiration and an example to people in Colorado as to what they can make of themselves.
If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run.
He was the athletic hero of my generation.
Yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And which is more, you will be a man, my son.
He was awesome. He really was. And he looked at that face and those steel eyes and the square chin. He was something. Big fan of his.
For the University of Colorado, Whizzer White is essentially what Bill Bradley is to Princeton.
I think that his life in Colorado was an example of someone who became involved in politics because they cared about the future of the country.
There aren't very many Supreme Court justices. There are fewer of those than there are senators.
I think, therefore, he has that place of being the one who played professional sports that went the highest in public service.
He's one of the most well-rounded individuals, I think, in the 20th century.
It shows how people can leave the state, but the state never leaves the people.
I think the great thing that I always admired about Whizzer White was he was the demonstration. And you talk to a lot of corporate CEOs, they'll say this, that people that are successful in sports, in high school and in college, at the high levels, are generally successful at everything they try.
From collegiate All-American to top NFL rusher to war hero, successful lawyer, husband and father to Supreme Court justice, his legacy will live on with Coloradoans and all Americans for generations to come.
Tom Brokaw said that this was the greatest generation, and I think Byron White was one of the greatest citizens in that generation.
Probably the thing that is most lasting, that he called me friend. That's about as good as it ever got with Justice White.